helicopter parents, teaching your child how to advocate for themselves, teaching your child how to have the confidence, the language to have conversations, because sometimes recruiting calls can be difficult for young people. Parents to be passionate about what their children are doing.
Right.
The thing about parents is parents want the best 5 players on the team plus their daughter on the court. Whether their daughter is one of the best or not, it's the best 5 plus their daughter, and that's who they're rolling with. You can appreciate the passion for the child that parents have. The thing that I always focus in on is your motor. What kind of motor does this kid have? Is she dying out early? Is she impacting plays in multiple ways? What kind of impact does she have? Skill set is skill set, right? We already know that our bigs, our forwards, and centers have the ability, if they're taller in size and girthy, they have athleticism, they can catch, there's potential, you know? We also know that the guards, y'all gotta, you gotta be able to pass, you gotta have a tight handle, you have to be able to shoot, you have to have a tangible, transferable skill. You don't gotta have no skill to have impact. You don't have to have any skill to go hard, play out of possession, to rebound, like the nitty-gritty portion, because that also tells me what kind of heart you have.
Did you know that I have 2 books? One called The Little Girl with Big Dreams. It's about an ambitious little girl who overcomes every no to say yes to a dream. The other is called Changing Lanes. It teaches you about the things that you learn from sport and how it translates to life after sport. Be sure to check these out at itsjustdifferentpod.com. Let's get to the episode. Welcome to the It's Just Different podcast, where we bring on people who have been where you are trying to go and or have helped countless athletes get there. I am your host, Ashley Roberts, former collegiate player, real estate investor, author, overall serial entrepreneur. Today, we have a special guest on. Played collegiate basketball at the University of Texas, Hook'em Horns, was drafted by Seattle Storm, finished off with Minnesota Lynx, has been on staff with Gonzaga, USC, UC Santa Barber, UNLV, and currently at Rutgers. Was also voted one of the 50 most influential coaches and assistant coaches in Division I basketball. Nneka Enemkpali, Coach Nneka, as I like to say, Nneka! Welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Ash. That's exactly how you say my name whenever I call you too.
Every single time. Nneka! Looks like you are in the office. I'm good. I'm excited. We got another episode. I know it's going to be a fire episode. So other than that, life is always lifing, but it's good.
Good. It's called adulting, man. Life be life and be hitting you left, right. I don't care.
I will go with that. Adulting is it. Looks like you're in the office. Y'all just finishing practice, or what's going on that way?
Yeah, we just finished up our second official practice of this new year. So the girls are downstairs getting treatment. We just grabbed some food. It was a really good practice.
Okay. And because you pretty much just got the Rutgers job for the most part, right?
Mm-hmm.
How's that transition been?
It's west to east. So when I made the move, it was quite the drive out here. I didn't drive, I flew, but the transition was a different transition because I'm from Texas, spent majority of my coaching career on the West Coast. So moving out east was a different climate change, different area, relearning the landscape of recruiting, coaches, kids. So it's been an acclimation period, and I'm glad that I'm finally feeling like I have a bit of a groove for myself now.
I love that. So, as you know, I'm a grassroots director. I talk to a lot of different coaches all the time. Grassroots director, talk to other grassroots directors, and former players talk to former players. And one thing that we always talk about in general is how things are different, whether good or bad. It's just different. What would you say is different in youth basketball or women's basketball as a whole?
What's different about it? What's different is when you think about women's basketball in general, the element of relationships is a driving force when it comes to coaching, right? So a lot of people think that it's just X's and O's. We get to come in, coach basketball, and they're so excited about that portion. And there's a piece of coaching, especially with the women's game, that is extremely predicated on your ability to relationship with these young women and to build rapport with them, right? So once
Mm-hmm.
they feel that they trust you, oh, they'll do anything for you, you know. But you got to
Mm-hmm.
be able to bridge the gap. I think that we have a lot of high talent. We have a lot of skilled players. We have a lot of great coaches, but you got to be able to get through to them, right? So you got to build those relationships, rapport with them. And once you do that, they're all yours. They'll do anything.
Yep.
They'll run through a wall for you. So I think relationships and rapporting with kids is really big.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a real good one, actually. I love that answer. I kind of introduced you already, talked about college, talked about you had a stand in the W and currently
Mm-hmm.
coaching college, but I want to take it back just a little bit. How did you even,
Uh,
yeah, just a little bit. We got to go back. We got to bring the people back just a little bit. How did Nneka even get to Texas?
I got there circumstantial. I would say
Okay.
like it was based on circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
I was 6 foot by I want to say seventh or eighth grade. I was a biggin,
Wow.
and we're Nigerian. So I think anybody who's familiar with the African community, um, our parents are very academically focused. They don't care
Mm-hmm.
anything about sports for the most part until they realize that you could get a scholarship for it. So my journey started in me just being one of the taller kids in school, and one of my coaches seeing me and said, "You're going to play for my team." And my parents never dissuaded me from playing, but it wasn't something that they would have naturally put me into. So I had an opportunity to join a team and tried out for my first team, got cut, didn't make it. Went out again next year and made my first AAU team and started playing travel ball. Opportunities presented itself from there.
Mm-hmm.
It was very circumstantial that I was in the right place at the right time and somebody gave me an opportunity to start loving the game and to grow in the game. So
Right.
I got the opportunity through there. And then I don't know, how did I end up at Texas? I guess I just played
Yeah.
and they came out, recruited me, and watched me.
Who did you play AAU with?
I started off with Push the Rock. So Push the Rock was a local team in Pflugerville. So I played with them all the way up until my junior summer. And then my
Okay.
junior summer, I played with Team Express. Team Express, Carissa Davis Reitzel.
I feel like I'm shouting Clarissa out every episode. Like
Yeah, she's a
Clarissa.
Texas person, like especially more in that central Texas area. She was
Mm-hmm.
the person who kind of raised us all up.
I love it. Shout out again, Clarissa. I really feel like I've shouted her out almost every episode. That's
Hmm.
dope. So was Texas recruiting you before you got to Clarissa, or did that happen when you got to Clarissa?
Yeah, I was actually committed. So I committed my sophomore year in high school. So by
Okay.
sophomore year in high school, I had committed to Texas, and then I decommitted before going out that summer. Um, because for some reason, I don't know why I decommitted, but I decommitted before going out that summer. I think I wanted to go through the recruiting process
Mm-hmm.
because playing on a local team, I didn't have the opportunity to play
Mm-hmm.
in front of a lot of coaches. So going to play with her, I got more exposure and had the opportunity to kind of, test the waters a little bit, but ended up staying home.
Got it. So many questions in that one thing. You committed your sophomore year, which
Hmm.
means coaches saw you. I'm assuming when you're saying local, what does that look? Because when I hear local, I hear we only played in Austin. Is
We didn't
that
always play in Austin. Local. When I say local, I played for a local team. So all the girls that I played with, we were at the local high school surrounding. None of us
got it?
came from very far. Um, it wasn't, none of us were really like highly ranked on ESPN or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. We weren't playing at any of the big tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
So I played with that team because it was a team that I grew up with.
Got it. Makes
And
sense.
we played at one tournament in Oklahoma that kind of opened the waters for a lot of us and gave us a lot of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up committing because my middle school coach took me to a Texas camp.
Got it.
So that's where I got seen. My middle school coach took me to a Texas camp, and I ended up receiving an offer based off of that. So,
Based off of how you performed at camp.
well, they followed me. So then, I put my
Got
name
it.
on the map, and they started following me after camp, and they
Mm-hmm.
started watching my team play, and then they presented me with an offer. So that's kind of how that bridge was kind of created for me.
Makes sense. So you was with Push the Rock. I'm assuming these were close friends.
Hmm.
Um, you got an offer, which is what everybody, if they're playing, they want to play college basketball, they're playing for an
Hmm.
offer.
So you got
Yep.
an offer. Why didn't you just finish off your last year at Push the Rock?
It was competition for me.
Okay.
I think the tournaments we were playing in were not pushing me to excel at the level that I really wanted to. And I wanted to see if I could play with the big dogs. Like I see all these girls that are ranked one through whatever, and they're being touted or highly touted as some of the highest recruited players in our
Mm-hmm.
area. I wanted to see how I could compete and compare against them.
Yep.
So I went out that summer and I was like, okay, if these are the girls that are the it girls on the scene, then I'm holding my own against them. So it was really
Mm-hmm.
important for me to not feel like I was the biggest in the pond that I was in,
I
but
love
I wanted
that.
to make sure that I could compete with the people who were considered to be the best of the best, because that's where I wanted to play at that level. And these would be the players that I'd be playing against whenever I did get to college.
Mm-hmm. Now, I did a little bit of research, so I can be wrong, and I don't even know if you remember at this point, but I saw
Mm-hmm.
that you were maybe like ranked number 34 or something like that by ESPN. Is that accurate? Do you even
Mm-hmm.
remember?
I think I think in my class I was like the number 9 forward coming out of our
Yeah.
class, and
Yep.
I don't know, I was 30 something, somewhere up there. And
Yeah.
that was only playing one summer. That
One
was
summer.
one summer on the trail.
Wow. That's pretty dope. Shout out to you. I remember saying, I think it was like 9 as in your position and 34
Mm-hmm.
overall. So that's pretty cool. You decommitted from Texas,
Mm-hmm.
went to Team Express, recommitted, like wanted to go there. What made you decide Texas is the school?
I'm a family girl. I'm a
Yeah.
family girl for sure. Anybody who knows me knows how close I am to my family. I think the biggest thing was for me to prove to myself that I could compete at that level with girls who were, at my level, but some of the people who were also better than me, more skilled than me, more athletic than me. And college is college. You're going to get a great education wherever you go. The resources are going to be equal. They're going to be equivalent. I think you have to pinpoint what it is that's important to you. And for me, my hometown was super special to me. It means a lot to me. And having my parents and my family support me was important for me as well. So, college is going to be college wherever you go. You got to figure out
Mm-hmm.
what your priorities are.
Mm-hmm. So Nneka was with Push the Rock, went to Team Express, Texas. What happened after Texas?
What happened after
Yeah.
Texas? I had a short stint in the W.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into this coaching world. I went straight from Texas into the coaching world. Started as a video coordinator at Gonzaga, spent 2 years there as, pursuing my master's degree and doing the video and kind of just learning the business, the ins and outs of it. And then I had my first opportunity to become an assistant with Bonnie Henriksen. I'm sure you know her. She was head coach at
Yep.
Kansas back when we were all playing.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, you know what? I remember you as a player and I couldn't stop you. So I was like, might as well recruit you to come coach my post players.
Come coach,
So that,
please. Please come
yeah,
help us.
yeah. So it was a really cool experience getting to work alongside people who had also recruited you. And
Mm-hmm.
I worked all up and down the West Coast between Santa Barbara, UNLV, USC, and before I finally found my opportunity here at Rutgers.
I love it. I don't want to glance over the stint in the W because it is so hard to get in to play.
Yeah.
So one shout out to you. Like that's pretty dope. What was your experience like playing in a W?
Yeah. My journey was quite the journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you remember my
Mm-hmm.
senior year, I tore my ACL.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say 2 games into conference play. So I played too many games to get that year back, but
Yep.
it was literally 2 games into conference play. So you had a lot more basketball left to play. So my senior season ended up being what I would consider to be a wash. But the way that I played, the way that I carried myself on the court, I left that year and I left my 4 year tenure at Texas not feeling as if I left anything on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people would be like, oh, I regret, or I wish I could have. I didn't regret or wish I could have done anything more because I know I left everything on the court. So I say that to say I ended up rehabbing that first year that I got drafted. So I tore my ACL, still got drafted, and I used that year to just rehab and regain full strength in my knee. Came back the following year, went to Seattle, went to training camp. And I don't know if this is good advice or not, but I'm telling everybody don't play. When you go to training camp, do not play pickup. Because because I went to training camp and I had suffered an ACL tear and microfracture. I did that back to back in one knee, and those are both 9-month recoveries each. So I went to training camp and I was playing. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm with Sue Bird. I'm with this person, that person, just really excited. And I tore my meniscus at training camp. So I didn't pass my physical. Got waived from that team, and was probably 2 weeks later, I was sitting on the couch and Cheryl Reeves calls me and she was like, yo, like, what's up? She was like, what you doing? Come out to Minnesota. We'll get some doctors to look at your knee. You have nothing to lose. We'd love to have you, like, just come out. And that's how it worked. I ended up going out, and it was a surreal experience for me. It was Simone Augustus. It was Sylvia Fowles. It was Lindsay Whalen.
Wow.
It was Maya Moore. So, like, being in the locker room with these women and watching the way that they practice, the way that they rep things out, the efficiency, the attention to detail. I tried to not be starstruck, being in the locker room. I really did. But it was a really full circle experience for me.
I love that.
Okay.
So after Minnesota, you went straight to Gonzaga?
I did. And it's funny because I actually took an interview. Lisa Fortier is her name. So in between the stint of me going from Seattle to Minnesota, I decided to start looking for graduate assistant positions. So I was reaching out to different universities and asking for opportunities before Cheryl called me and brought me out to Minnesota. So I'll never forget, it was one day after practice, I got a phone call and Lisa was like, this is your interview. And I was like, okay, great. So I grab my clothes, change, and I take my interview on the bathroom floor in the locker room. So, once I left Minnesota, I went and packed up all my stuff, made the drive out to Washington State, and started with Fortier and her staff. I like to tell people, if they have the opportunity to get into this business, I think the mid-major level is a great place to start, just because you have the opportunity to do a lot of different things. And I say mid-major, Gonzaga does not operate like a mid-major at all. But I think having the opportunity to be a video coordinator and understanding what the process of, having the opportunity to look at film, and you look at it intensively because your assistants need a lot for you. Video creativity, being able to take lead on different small projects here and there just gives you a different insight into how your assistants need to be supported and what could be, or what should be asked for as an assistant as well. So I think having the opportunity to be a VC was pivotal for me, because it just gave me a leg up into my ability to come into my assistant position and know how to work some of the film and the software and things like that. So went straight to Gonzaga after Minnesota.
And you was there, you said 2 years?
2 years, yeah.
2 years. Once you was at Gonzaga, what was the next school?
I left Gonzaga and went to Santa Barbara. So
Okay.
Bonnie Henriksen, she was my first opportunity to be an assistant coach. So I went from doing video and, helping all the assistants to still having to do my own video, because we did not have a video coordinator at Santa Barbara. But now I had the opportunity to step onto the court. I had my own position, and I had the opportunity to impact on a different level.
So that was your first assistant job, which means that was your first time actually like coaching, I guess, in the realm of coaching college kids, right?
That was my first time.
What was that like?
It was funny because I think we had grads on that team, and I was probably like 3 or 4 years older than our grads on the
Close to the
team.
same age.
Yeah, so you have to learn how to manage that. You're in a power of authority over them, but you're also. I think that a lot of young coaches, your secret sauce is your ability to relate to players. So you got to also find just a middle ground of professionalism between the two dynamics. It was. I'm not gonna lie. My first year as an assistant was stressful. I was stressed all the time, just stressed, because you don't really know what you don't know.
Right.
There's no way for you to understand what it takes to be an assistant until you're in those shoes. There's also no way to know if you want to be an assistant until you're in those shoes, actually fulfilling the roles and requirements of it. It was a learning experience. I went through my first year with my position group and, having to do scouts and recruiting. And you just go into it with an open mindset of knowing that there are going to be things that you're going to be like, oh, shucks, like I really wish I would have done it this way. But that's the grace of it, right? Your first year, it's like being a freshman on the basketball team. Your head coach is always going to be like, okay, you don't know, but this is the way I like it done, or this is the way I expect for things to be done. So learned a lot, definitely learned a lot my first year.
And you were there for how many years?
2 years.
2 years. So 2 years Gonzaga, 2 years Santa Barbara, and then we went where?
We're gonna go through my entire.
We're going through the whole thing.
We're going through the whole thing.
We walking them through the whole thing.
And then I went to UNLV. So I went to University of Nevada, Las Vegas, with the first-time head coach, Lindy LaRock.
Okay. What was that like?
It was great. It was great. It was a great experience. Lindy came into it. She was a Stanford grad, so we actually played against each other. And you were on the team too. We played against her. It would have been my junior year, your senior year. Mm-hmm. And she was a great shooter. She was a great teammate. I think what I really appreciated about her is the effortless ease in which she ran the program. There are a lot of people who I've seen run a program in what they feel or what looks like a more rigid manner. And I think to each is their own. I think our players really enjoyed playing for her, and the staff camaraderie and the staff rapport in the office was extremely high because of the way she managed individuals. So she brought a lot of what she did at Stanford there. And I think the best thing she brought was her championship mentality, because it's really easy to see the vision when you've been there. And she'd been everywhere. She won Pac-12 championships. She's been to Final Four, so she knew what it took to get there. So it was a really great opportunity for me to be with a first-time head coach, but also a first-time head coach who was 30 at the time. And to see her do it so effortlessly, and to see her do it with the ease that she did it with, but most importantly, the confidence in which she did it with, was eye-opening for me to see as a young woman. So really, really enjoyed that experience.
Yes, we have merch available. Be sure to check out the site. It is justdifferentpod.com to see something you might like. All right, back to the episode.
I love that. Then we hit USC. Now we're at Rutgers. You have been at multiple schools, different conferences, different levels. Can you talk about recruitment? The biggest thing is that I see, just being a grassroots director, is parents, one, not understanding what it takes to get recruited, what it looks like, what schools are looking for. So can you talk about that at the different level? Because you have been at different levels, and I would assume different schools are looking at different things.
Yeah. I would just start by saying recruitment is specific to the individual, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a kid and you're getting all this interest from a specific range of schools, like let's say that it's all Division II schools that are reaching out to you, chances are that you are a Division II player. If you're getting a lot of mid-major Division I, chances are you are a mid-major Division I player. And the same thing goes for the ladder. Continue going up. If it's a lot of high major schools recruiting you, then that's what level you're at. A scholarship is a scholarship. Free education is free education. I think opportunity is opportunity. What's your end goal? What are you in it for? Are you in it to say, I got offered an opportunity to go play at what you consider to be the highest division of that division? Because Division I is Division I, right? Recruiting for me has differed in the sense that I went from having a smaller pool of talent in which I could really, really evaluate and pull from, to now having an opportunity once I got to USC and now at Rutgers to having a more vast net, right? Mm-hmm. So we're in the Big Ten. It's a Power 5 conference. The competition is high. We're on the East Coast, so we have an opportunity to recruit on the East Coast. We had the opportunity to recruit in the South. We had the opportunity to recruit in the Midwest. But now, with the combination of UCLA and USC now join the Big Ten, there's now an opportunity to potentially go out and recruit out West, right? Mm-hmm. Because these are schools that are joining our conference, which means these kids who are out there will now have more opportunity for their parents to come and see them play if we were to go out there and recruit them. And we also have Washington and Oregon joining the conference as well. So yeah, recruiting is something that we attack very meticulously from our level. We have a board in which we use to analyze, you look at what your needs are. It's not just, pick all the great talent. And some people do it, talent acquisition. But the way that we do things here is, we have a specific niche that we need and a specific need. And we're making sure that we're filling those buckets. And my job as a recruiting coordinator is to be able to recognize this is a player that my coach can coach. This is a type of player that my coach wants to coach. This player, she's not going to vibe with my coach. So I'm not even going to bring her to the meeting. I'm not bringing nobody who's going to make me look crazy. You're not going to make me look crazy. So you also have to have a very good feel for the caliber of player, personality, character that your coach is willing to coach, because it has to be a two-way street. And then the dynamic needs to meet in the middle. You also look into things like what kind of, how do I say it? Sometimes parents be blocking kids' blessing.
Oh, say it again, please. Say it again.
Sometimes parents can block a kid's blessing. And, I'm not a parent, so I can't speak to that. But I think that sometimes opportunities we want to extend opportunities to certain players. But sometimes the parents are too high maintenance, or the parents present themselves in a way that, kind of force you to shy away a little bit. Recruiting is not just about your ability to be a great basketball player, because you have to come here and you also have to do academics. Like, academics are a big priority. So can you handle the rigors and be disciplined enough to be an elite basketball player, but also be an elite student in the classroom, right? Because you're not getting on the court unless you're passing in the class. So there are a lot of different factors, and I feel like I'm rambling, but a lot of different things go into the recruitment process, and I don't want the minute details of, simply coming off the bench and giving your teammates a high five, or how you respond to coaches, to be overlooked, because we look at everything. We watch everything, how you treat people, how you talk to people, how you're received by your teammates. Those might be smaller pieces to it, but it all goes into your recruitment process.
Yeah, no, that was great. And so many questions came in my head as you was talking, so many. One, I do want to go back to the parents, just because I think that parents really don't understand. Like you said, sometimes parents can be high maintenance. Sometimes parents can, mess up a kid. Like, what are some of those? Like, can you get a little specific of just some examples that parents can do that can hurt their kid?
Yeah. Can I get more specific? Helicopter parents.
Yeah.
I think that just allowing your child to, or rather teaching your child how to advocate for themselves, teaching your child how to have the confidence and the language to have conversations, because sometimes recruiting calls can be difficult for young people, and I understand parents wanting to know who their kids are talking to. That's really, really important. But I would just challenge parents to empower their children to have these conversations, empower their children to advocate for themselves, empower their children to ask tough questions, and to empower their children to take ownership of their recruiting process.
Yep. I love that. When I'm thinking of games and I'm thinking of parents, I'm at games all the time, right? A lot of things that I see is, some of the parents, and you can get emotional, you can get competitive. Everybody wants their kid to perform well, right? That's natural. Everybody wants their kid to perform well. But some of the things that I have seen is, parents screaming and yelling at the refs, or parents getting mad, throwing their hands up every time their kid come out. Or, parents yelling across, like, why put so-and-so in, or whatever. I think that those are important things that parents should understand, where they're just trying to be competitive, or whatever the case may be. When it's live period time, the coaches on the sideline, they're watching the kid, but they're also watching the parent and how the parent is reacting. And I think that's important to know.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think passion is one thing. I would love my players to exude passion in what they do. I love parents to be passionate about what their children are doing. Right. The thing about parents is parents want the best 5 players on the team plus their daughter on the court. Whether their daughter is one of the best or not, it's the best 5 plus their daughter, and that's who they're rolling with. So you can appreciate the passion for the child that parents have. But there has to be a level of ability to control that and not always showcase in those kinds of situations and scenarios.
Right. No, that's good. We kind of talked about, I just hit on live period. Live period is obviously, for anyone that does not know, when college coaches can come out, evaluate talent, look at some of the kids that they have on their board. What are some things that you look for when you're going to these tournaments in kids?
Yeah. I always play this fun game with myself. Obviously, I know who the top kids in the country are. I know who we're recruiting to an extent. But when I first got here, and because I was jumping from one region to the next, I always play a game of, I know what court I'm supposed to be on, I know what team I'm watching, but I'm not looking to see what number they are, because I want to see if I can evaluate and figure out who it is that we're keyed in on. For me, when I go to any court and I see any player play, regardless if you're a guard or a forward or a center, the thing that I always focus in on is your motor, right? What kind of motor does this kid have? Does she, is she dying out early? Is she impacting plays in multiple ways? What kind of impact does she have? Skill set is skill set, right? We already know that our bigs, our forwards and centers have the ability, if they're taller in size and girthy, they have athleticism, they can catch, there's potential, We also know that the guards, y'all gotta, you gotta be able to pass, you gotta have a tight handle, you have to be able to shoot, you have to have a tangible, transferable skill. But you don't gotta have no skill to have impact. You don't have to have any skill to go hard. You don't have to have any skill to play out of possession. You don't have to have any skill to rebound, like the nitty-gritty portion, because that also tells me what kind of heart you have, right? That also tells me your ability to get after it when things get tough. So those are the things that I'm like, oh, I like her. I can work with that. I can help grow that, right? Because as coaches, our job is to what? Help players improve.
Yeah, right.
You have to help players improve. And I don't care if you receive a kid in high school, by the time they leave your school in 4 years, they should be better.
Yeah.
They absolutely should be better. That's a sign of you having done your job. So I want to see how kids impact plays, what kind of motor they have, and what kind of grit they have. Obviously, I need kids who are skilled, who can shoot the ball, and who can fit a specific mold. But naturally, my eyesight is like, man, that kid right there, even if I know she isn't at the level to play where I'm at, I'll make a note and I'll be like, you know what? She'll be really good in this conference, or she'll be really good in that conference. And because I've played in so many different or coached in so many different conferences, you have connections, you've networked, other coaches. You're going to pass that name off to this coach now. Yep, and you're going to be like, yo, look at this kid. Come to court 5. This kid is killing it. She can't play at our level, but I know she'll rock it at yours. So yeah, that's another thing that kids
right
don't know.
There is a gem for sure. Like, I don't think parents and players really understand that. Everybody gets so caught up in the Power Fives, and obviously I'm in Texas, so all I hear is, oh, I want to play at Texas, I want to play at Baylor, and all these different things, and not realizing that you might not be able to play at that school, and that's totally fine. But the youth industry, basketball, everything is a small circle. Everybody knows everybody. So being able to pass your name on is good. One of the things that you said, you talked about being able to handle the ball, being able to pass, all these different things. Does height matter? Because if you see a 5'2" guard that can do all of these things, what does that look like for you?
Does height matter? I think that is we play with Brooke McCarty.
Facts.
And Brooke McCarty was 5'4". She was 5'4" and 50 pounds sopping wet, right? But Brooke McCarty had a specific niche, right? She was great off ball screens. She had great IQ, but she could shoot the ball, right? So when you're that little, you have to be a master with your handle. You have to have a high IQ, and you have to have something that you do intangibly well. Preferably shoot it intangibly well. Like, that was something that she could do in her sleep, right? Shoot the ball. So if you're that small, I think that You have to really, really hone in to building out your skill set and polishing your skill set. And I would say that you need to develop a really great floater, and you have to be a really great 3-point shooter. You got to be a 3-point shooter. That's what I would say. That's what I would say.
That's real good. I definitely agree with that. I see, and just me talking to different coaches, talking specifically about my program. I'm currently working for one of my 24s. She's I think she's 5'5", 5'6". But all I hear is we're trying to get bigger. We're trying to get bigger. We're trying to get bigger. And the two things that they asked me, or one of the main things that they asked me, is how well can she shoot the ball? Right? We need to see her consistently shoot it. So I think that, like you just said, that's spot on. Like, you have to be able to shoot the basketball. Yeah. So I agree with that. Transfer portal, right? I think that that's a big thing right now. What are your thoughts on transfer portal? Do you feel that it's affecting high school athletes? And what's the solution for it?
What's the solution for it? There's no solution for it.
I was going to say, is there a solution for it?
It's inevitable. I don't know that there's a solution for it. I think that we all know we live in a generation of instant gratification. And the kids that are coming up, they want to be instantly gratified. They don't understand that the signs of a great program, the signs of a growing program and a fruitful program, is that as a freshman, there are very few freshmen that come in and are playing 40 minutes a game. Right. Because if you're playing 40 minutes a game, that means that you do not have any competition ahead of you. And that means that you're not going into a program that has sustained or built anything yet. Right. So I think the transfer portal is inevitable because kids want instant gratification, and they are less willing to sit and work for it, and don't understand that there's a process. College is a process. There are things that come right after the other, and you got to put in your work. I think the transfer portal for high school kids hopefully will help them narrow their focus and will hopefully help them ask the questions that they need to ask, so they have an opportunity to find the home that they want. Right. And when I say that they want, it's because the transfer portal allows us now to supplement our recruiting, supplement our teams with kids who have been there and done it. When you have a kid who's 17 years old versus a kid who's 21 years old, who's played 3 years of college basketball, potentially 4 years of college basketball, it's really hard for a coach to weigh it out, right? Because this kid comes in and she's able to come in and immediately impact, so unless you're one of the top 10 kids in the country who you're going to hold a spot for because you know that they can come in and play immediately at that level, the transfer portal becomes advantageous for coaches in that way. And it could be a disadvantage for high school kids if they're not diligent, if they're not doing their due diligence in vetting their process, right? And then you think about the unlimited official visits now. Like, kids can take 50 official visits if they want to. I think that kids deserve the autonomy to go into the process and really, take onus of it and visit schools and do this and do that. But I don't know if you need unlimited visits, though.
That's crazy.
Unlimited?
Yeah, that's a lot.
That, to me, that's something. It's something. Because now, and I think 5 visits made you really, really key in, okay, I can check X, Y, and Z off of my list because they don't meet the criteria that I've presented for myself as being a high priority need. But now, if I can take 30 visits, it's like, well, heck yeah, I'm going to go there, I'm going to go there, I'm going to go there. It dilutes the process. It's a diluted...
Best believe they taking all them visits too. They going
all of them. All of them. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. I know kids... coaches sometimes want to be somewhere in between the second or third, because to make it to a 4th or 5th visit, it's exhausting. If you're the last visit, good luck to you, because you're just praying at that point that they make it to you.
Right. And when I talk solution, what do you think are some of the solutions for some of these high school athletes? Like you just said, the top of the top, they're gonna get what they're gonna get at the end of the day. But some of these kids that are on the verge of a D1 offer or maybe mid-major, whatever the case may be, like, what are some of the solutions? Because at the end of the day, there are a lot of kids that are trying to figure out, do you think maybe going JUCO, or like, what do you think is some things that kids can do, that parents can talk to their kids about to help them throughout this process?
You mean help them in the recruiting process?
Yes. They see these kids, social media that's what it is right now. So they see some of these other players committing and doing these different things. And you're a senior now and you haven't committed, you're getting impatient, you're hearing, oh, you need to hold off, or whatever the case may be. And then you're up against the transfer portal. Like, what are some things that they can do? How can they combat this? What are some options they should be looking at?
Yeah, I think that when you're at that level where you're not being highly recruited, I don't know if, whether it is that you're playing on a team that doesn't get out to as many tournaments, or if you're on a really well-known AAU travel team, but you're not getting any minutes because of how well-known the team is. I think a good way to combat that is now you have to take some measures into your own hand. Sending out film to coaches is good, but at the same time, sometimes coaches open it, sometimes they don't because of the things that they're swamped with. Right. So my advice would be to go out, visit camps, go to different camps, elite camps. I've been a part of multiple staffs where we're at elite camp and we're like, this kid is not on our radar. Who is this kid? And simply off of that kid now gets added and they're getting more looks. Now we're figuring out how to continue watching them when we go out in July. I would say go on unofficial visits, and don't just go on unofficial. If you don't have any offers, we're not going on unofficial visits to Baylor and Texas. No, we're going to go to unofficial visits at every school. We're going to go to the JUCOs around us. We're going to go to the mid-majors around us. We want to see what school looks like from their perspective. We want to get on those coaches' radar. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being a JUCO player. Mm-hmm. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being a JUCO
product player. Right here, South Plains.
Exactly. South Plains, TVCC, and Texas, like those two JUCOs produced so many high-level players, and sometimes your testimony is your testimony. Your journey is your journey, right? So your journey can turn into your testimony if you allow it to. But you can also block your testimony because you're not allowing it to unfold in the way that it's supposed to unfold. Right. So I would say for them to go to different elite camps. I would say for them to, go to different unofficial visits and make sure that it's you're casting your net wide with that and going to different levels, right? We're not going to the high mid majors if we haven't had any scholarship opportunities. I would say work with somebody who understands the process, please.
Yes. Yes.
Please work with somebody who understands the process. Former players who've played at the level, who have connections with college coaches. Because for the most part, you do it all the time. You'll send me film of some of your kids and be like, "Yo, what level is this?"
Yes.
There, you need that honest feedback. And please, please, please do not be disillusioned. Like, do not live in a land of delusion, right? If you have not received any Power 5 offers, again, we talked about it earlier. That means you are not a what, Ash?
A Power 5 kid.
You're not a Power 5 player. What I will say, there are some kids who end up going to the mid-major level and have great seasons who then get called up.
Then get called up. Many times.
So there's various opportunities, different ways to go about it, but don't be disillusioned. Allow your journey to unfold in the natural way, organic way that it's going to.
Yeah. And you said something earlier about, basically the type of team you're playing on, whether it's a well-known team and you're not getting a lot of minutes, or a team that's not getting exposure. One of the things that I see a lot, and I might be all over the place with this question, but I see it a lot where some parents are trying to figure out, should I try out for this EYBL program? Should I try out for this Adidas program? Should I stay with the program that I've been with for 10 years? Should I play with an independent program that play against these teams? Like, talk to us a little bit about that. Like, should they go circuit? Should they go independent? Should they play with whoever they've been playing with? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. It's specific to the player, right? So I'll use Alexis Jones. Like, Alexis Jones didn't play. Did she play for DFW? She
at
played for
her
DFW
she did like
when
at
she
the
started.
end. Yeah.
So like those type of players, I remember she played on it was her high school team that she played with for a very long time in the summertime, and they stayed together, right? But because of the caliber of player that she was, the coaches came
to
right?
her.
The coaches came. So like if you're on a non-shoe circuit team and you have a player like that on your team, I would encourage you to stay with them.
Yeah.
Right? Because the coaches are going to come regardless, because they're coming to watch that player, and then now we're going to see you when we come. But if you're a player who's kind of on the wire, and your shoe circuit or your team is not going to great tournaments where you're going to get exposure, your team is not going to tournaments where coaches are going to be at, then it's really difficult for players to get a high level quality of looks. But if you have an opportunity to go to a shoe circuit team and play, if you have the opportunity to go to a shoe circuit team and play, whether it's on their first, second, or third team, you at least know you're going to be in high caliber tournaments, and the sidelines are going to be full all the time. But if you're going to go and sit, then that's a different story. So it just depends on the situation and on the player.
Now, do you think that these coaches are actually going to, let's say, shoe circuit team, you're on their third team, or coaches actually going to watch the third team?
Depends on who they have on them.
Yeah.
Depends on who they have on them, you know? Like sometimes we could go to a tournament, and a lot of the coaches are going to always obviously be at the EYBL courts. We're going to be watching the top teams play. Again, this is very specific to the specific player. It's very specific to the player. You have to understand your talents. You have to understand your strengths, and know that if I have an opportunity to go play with these kids, I'm not going to be sitting. I'm going to have an opportunity to go play with these kids and compete. But if you're thinking in your mind that I'm going to have an opportunity to go play with the kids and wear the jersey and sit, well, then you're better off at least going and spending your parents' money by actually getting on the court.
Right. Yeah. You said Alexis Jones. It made me think of Ariel Atkins. She played with Duncanville. She played with Duncanville until her very last summer, and then finished off that way. So
they had AU. They had an AU team.
Yeah, her Tasia. It was Duncanville High School in Jack. Like Coach Seth Husband coached it. That's who she played with. And then I'm pretty sure it was her last summer is when she finished off with Cy-Fair. But at that time, she already had everything. I think she was already committed. Yeah, I think she was already committed. So I definitely think it's possible, if you are that player or playing with players that are bringing coaches, you could still get recruited.
I don't think we use great examples, because you just named an Olympian and I named a former WNBA player. So like these are like the top elite of the
that league, is true.
5%.
that is very accurate. Like that's a good point. As we kind of wrap up, I want to just kind of wrap it back around to AAU. You know, you're going to games. Did you ever coach AAU? I don't think you ever coached.
We coached AAU. Remember, like when we were still in school.
Oh, we coached like when it was like that was
when it was what? Coaching.
Like that was when we coached. All our tournaments was just in Austin. Like, but I guess you could say that was AAU. Whatever you want to call it. That's
the AAU that I coached. Yep.
What do you think is the biggest problem in AAU?
All these tournaments.
Yeah.
All of the tournaments. It's so oversaturated. You know, so like as coaches, we want to make sure that as coaches, you have your list, right? So as a recruiting coordinator, I'm telling my head coach, my assistant coach, this is where we're going, you know? So like there's a certain period in July where we already know the heavy hitters. We're going to be here, we're going to be here, we're going to be here. But once we get into that second part of July, it's like coaches are being stressed too far, few in between. Like we're going here, going there for a day, going there for a couple of hours. And I'm just like, it's oversaturated with so many tournaments. And I understand the business aspect of it. The players and parents don't have any say-so in this. So I think that the tournaments and having to travel and not being able to get quality time with our kids too, right? So because sometimes we're just sitting on kids. But you can't sit on one kid if she's all the way in Timbuktu, and the next kid you're supposed to sit on is all the way in Alaska, you know? So Alaska's a bad example, but You get what I'm saying? It's just overly saturated with all the tournaments that we have to go to.
Yeah. No, I agree. 100%. I agree. And I think for me, like, I remember in July, like, I had a schedule in March. This is where we're going. It changed like 3 times because teams are changing and like so much is changing. Like, I don't think we really solidified like exactly where we were going till closer to June. I'm like, we playing in 2 weeks. So
it's my worst nightmare. My worst nightmare to have a plan and just be derailed from the plan.
Yeah. No, I agree. This was really, really good. I always end my episodes with rapid fire. I'm sure you know a rapid fire. We've done that drill forever. But I got 5 questions for you. You answer as whatever comes to your mind, and we'll go from there. You ready?
All right, shoot.
Let's go. Biggest coaching pet peeve?
Rolled up shorts. Like, I don't like when they tuck their shorts all the way in and the jersey goes over the shorts. So like the jerseys look like a dress versus a jersey top and shorts.
I gotta roll my shorts up. I have to.
Not to the point to where your jersey top covers your shorts and it looks like
not that far. That's too much. Best teammate you have played with?
Like, in what way? Like, actually, like, best teammate?
Best teammate. The best teammate you've ever played with.
Oh, I can't think of it. I would say Ariel because she's an Olympian now.
Ariel Atkins, shout out to you. Can't play defense, but can shoot, or can't shoot, but can play defense?
I'm taking defense all day. I don't care about none of that stuff. Because whenever I'm going up against Caitlin Carr, I need somebody to defend her, right? So I'm going to take defense.
That's a fact. Game-winning block or game-winning shot?
Shot. I ain't never had one, but I wish I could have had one. I had game-winning blocks and rebounds,
a bunch of
but I wish I could have been on the shot.
Favorite college or WNBA player currently?
My favorite player of all time is always going to be Candace Parker.
Okay.
I love her. Love her game.
I love Candace Parker. All right, that was pretty good. Nneka, I appreciate you for hopping on. This was a great episode. Tell the people where they can find you, and if you could leave a message to our parents, to our players, as it relates to recruiting, as it relates to AAU, whatever you feel is on your heart that would be important for parents and players to hear.
Yes. You can find me at Coach Nneka on Instagram, at Coach Nneka as well on TikTok. A message to players and parents, I would say that your journey is your journey. Quiet the noise, right? So while people are posting all their offers, people are, talking about their recruiting process, your time will come when your time comes, right? Put in the work, have faith, trust the process, but also, again, do your due diligence to make sure that you're putting yourself out there and putting yourself in great positions to be successful. Same thing, parents. Don't helicopter around them kids. Empower them and give them the autonomy to learn how to speak on their own, for their own behalf, and to advocate for themselves. And trust that you've done your job as a parent, that they will, present themselves in the way that you find respectable as well.
Love it. Well, there you have it. Thank you guys for tuning in, whether you are watching this on YouTube, whether you are listening to this. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. I want to get this out to anybody possible that is playing basketball. If you're a parent, got a kid playing basketball, I appreciate it. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave a review. And if you're on YouTube, drop it in the comments, some takeaways that you got from this episode. That's all I got, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Ash.
Thank you.